After talking a lot on the fan code Hindi Formula One broadcast about the race, Kunal and I said, okay, let's talk a little bit more about the Singapore Grand Prix and let's review the race, let's review the action at the Marina Bay Street Circuit and understand why does George Russell only win in outlier circuits. But before we go into all of that, hero of the day. The hero of the day for the Singapore GP is
Ricardo Adami. That's who I'm going to take the hero of the day. Yes, it's the weekend where McLaren have clinched the Constructors Championship. I could have picked Zach Brown, Andrea Stella, Rob Marshall, Norris Piastri, whoever, but I'm going to pick Ricardo Adami. And only reason I'm going to do that, I see the question mark on your face, is Ricardo Adami announced Lewis Hamilton's 5 second time penalty, post race time penalty, before the FIA steward stayed because Lewis Hamilton had brake issues, went off circuits, had more than 3 track limit violations, and was sort of given the track penalty. Now, here's the fun part: Adami added the penalty, and Hamilton was debating it with him. But there can be force majeure. I have brake issues. Why should I get a penalty? But Adami had already told him that's 5 seconds time penalty. And this is still not the reason why he's the hero of the day. The hero of the day is because he added the time penalty and he said, hence we finished ninth. The truth is, Hamilton, after the time penalty, is eighth. How could Ricardo Adami get a basic math wrong?
Ferrari strategy. That is why, my friends, they are not world champions. Wow, I am. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised at this. I'm more surprised at the fact that you did not pick the obvious. You did not pick Fernando Alonso as the hero of the day after he put in a great struggle to pass a car with an engine issue. What a struggle it was. It's the only overtake I remember seeing in this race. Do you remember seeing an overtake, Kunal, at the Singapore Grand Prix?
No, I don't, and my goodness. And yes, we should be celebrating McLaren's win, their constructors championship, and the teamwork and the papaya rules, and George Russell finally winning.
And
But
Fernando Alonso being the hero of the day. Let's just put it out there. It's important. It's
no, it's Ricardo Adami. I will still go with that.
You can't go against the man who crowned this whole championship. He started the idea of the hero of the day. It has to be honorary Fernando Alonso. Everything
Yeah.
first at Singapore GP has to be Fernando Alonso. First win, first controversial.
First controversy. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
I know where you're going with that. Okay, but hero of the race, Abhijit is here saying Isaac Hadjar. Okay, well, he had an engine issue, and he said his engine has an issue again, and that reminded me of Fernando Alonso memories and Honda not probably being pleased with that. 3/4 off is what he was told, but he did fairly well to get. I think he was finally 11th and about 10 seconds down in 10 seconds outside of the points.
Yeah, it was good. It was good to see Isaac Hadjar still try to hold on in spite of an engine issue. But that's not what we're talking about in the first 3 minutes of this episode. We've already decided who the hero of the day is. We need to go and talk about McLaren winning the Constructors World Championship because they've got 10 Constructors World Championships now, Kunal. 10 World Championships, 2 in a row. And my favorite stat about McLaren winning the Constructors World Championship in 2025 is that Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris have become only the fourth McLaren driver pair to win back to back Constructors' World Championships after Lauda and Prost, Prost and Senna, Senna and Berger, and then you've got Piastri and Norris. Spot the odd one out if you can.
My favorite stat of McLaren winning is that they have had just 7-1-2 finishes in 14 races. That's a 50% rate. But remember this, it is the most dominant car out there, Soumil. I was so hoping they cross the 1,000 point barrier, which is what they looked to getting at just before the summer break. Because in the races before the summer break, they had 4-1-2 finishes. After the summer break, in the 4 races that have followed, which is Zandvoort, Monza, Azerbaijan, and now Singapore, no one to finish. So this is actually costing them the chance to score or breach the 1,000 point mark. And you remember which team actually has the highest points in the Constructors Championship? Do you?
We just checked before the episode and it blows my mind. Its name, I'm sorry, Max Verstappen. Yeah, Max Verstappen had, because in 2023, Red Bull Racing had over 800 points.
It's
And
60.
860 and 575 of them was was by Max himself.
Do you think McLaren could breach that 860 mark? They are at 650 points. That's 210 points, right? And we have 6 Grand Prix and 3 sprints remaining, a total of 303 points that are capable of being scored. So McLaren actually have to score uh, 210 points out of 303.
Seems
What do you think?
doable.
I think
Let's
so.
do the math. Um, let's pull out the calculator, shall we? 210 points over the course of how many
That's
races? You
70
said?
points, 70% of all the points.
No, guys, one sec. So 6 races, 3 sprints,
Yes.
which means let's start with the 6 races first. Let's assume you finish 1-2. You get 25 plus 18, which is 35, 45, 43. 43?
Yes. Yes.
43. 43 into 6 would be 258, which means 612s. I don't think 612s are happening. Are they? No, 612s are not happening. Las Vegas is coming around. Intel August is coming around. You're not going to get 612s. So let's assume. Do you think they'll get any 1-2s, Kunal? That poses a question for us. Do you think at the rate at which is going right now, do you think Max will let any 1-2 happen?
I doubt that. But anyway, math aside, calculators aside, based on what I gather, if you score 1-2 across all sprints and all Grand Prix available, there's I think 303 points available or thereabouts, right? And from that, they need to score 258, which is about 70% of the points. But again, I could be completely wrong. I'm doing live math while thinking, what's the number of people who've tuned in? Is the stream firing everywhere? Okay, but yeah, that's my McLaren stat. I think they've won with 6 races to go. They've equaled Red Bull's stat as well, the fastest to a race win with 6, or a constructors championship win with 6 races to go. All in all, hats off for them to be picking up from where they were in 2023. Eliminated in Q1 in the first
Yeah.
few races, bring on the Austrian upgrade, made certain upgrades later on through last year. They've been the class of the field and they've sealed the championship as a customer team. To me, that's another big stat, Sommel.
Yeah, the only customer team to have done it was Red Bull. Apart from that, I can't remember any apart from Braun.
But when was Red Bull a
Uh,
customer, so to say?
well, 20. Yeah, Red Bull also was technically a customer, were they? Like, even when they won the WDC in 21, they had they had the primary power focus of Honda. Last customer team must be Braun, surely. Like,
Yeah.
Braun GP 2009. Unbelievable achievement by McLaren. And Lando Norris has had a dream fulfilled today while also having his heart broken because he said he wanted to win a world championship with McLaren. He would stay till the team until they got that common goal of theirs achieved. He's done that now twice. They're two-time constructors world champions, but he's also had his heart broken because at the Singapore GP today, he could have had a chance to be able to get past Max Verstappen. But as we all say, Kunal, it's one thing to close up to Max. It's a different thing altogether to get past, and Max made it so hard for Lando.
Yes, and Abhijit offers a brilliant clarification, right? He's saying Red Bull were actually Renault's customers from 2020 to 2013,
Which is
which is true, which is when
20.
Abhite.
Yeah, I mean, the Lotus in 2011, but yes, it's a fair point. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Renault were
Uh,
only there in 2010, and then they became Lotus in 11, Lotus Renault, then they became Lotus. You can't tell with Renault, can you? Sometimes I wonder if their factory team, if they don't even want to make engines anymore. What are we saying?
but yeah, so should we just dive into what happened at the start? Opening lap, turns 1, 2, whatever. What do you think happened? Was it fair that Oscar Piastri did what he did?
I think Oscar Piastri has no right to complain whatsoever. Nothing
Really?
has.
Why?
Yeah, it's a first lap racing incident, isn't it?
But so one sec. It's a first lap racing incident. But do you believe he complained because they had discussed this scenario?
Do you think they would have discussed a driver snapping and trying to save his car and then accidentally butting into his teammate, which cost him like half a tenth in one position? Like, you think?
I think so. I think they have they
Kidding
have
me? Seriously?
they have over engineered that papaya. That's the papaya. You know how you have to stay away from genetically modified and engineered papayas. This is that over engineered papaya rules that
It's a
are there.
sour
I think that,
papaya.
yeah, I think that's possible. Otherwise, why on earth would Oscar Piastri say what he said? By the way, I don't care whether he got it or not. I think anyway. Think this is now a black hole. Everyone is digging themselves into, including the drivers and McLaren, right? But I loved what Oscar Piastri did, which is what every fan would have liked to do. That okay, so you don't crash into another driver, which is fine, but if you end up almost crashing into your teammate, is that papaya rules?
That's good argument skills in the middle of a race, by the way. Like,
Yeah,
very well articulated. Fair play.
and I, again, it's insane that instead of celebrating McLaren's achievements, so while celebrating McLaren's achievements, we are still debating papaya rules and how sour they are. And there's this video clip doing the rounds on Twitter. I mean, I use Twitter. I'm pretty sure it's on all other social media of Oscar Piastri unplugging his steering wheel when Zach Brown was delivering him a congratulatory message for helping McLaren win the Constructors Championship back to back. And apparently, he pulled out the wheel and disconnected the radio while the message was being delivered, right? Now, there are 2 points to this.
Interesting.
There are 2 points to this. First is we've got to remember the broadcast of a radio message is always later than when it actually was delivered. But that's the official broadcast. These are broadcasts on the drivers, channels themselves. So when you have F1 TV Pro and you sort of select each driver view, I don't know what the lag there is. So was Oscar Piastri genuinely pissed, or was this just a glitch in the matrix, as we'd call it?
I just think that Oscar in a normal situation has no right to be upset. But McLaren, as good designer told you, Kunal, have over-engineered the situation so much that a first-lap racing incident no longer is a normal racing incident, which I'm baffled by. Like it can happen to anyone. It could literally happen. And do you think Lando Norris should be blamed for putting a car down the inside on his championship rival and trying to get points for himself? No. Rubbish. If you blame him for that, sorry, watch another sport. He's a racing driver. He has to go for that move. And was he on the borderline of the grip available? Yes, he was. Did he control it at the end? Yes, unfortunately, by going at 102%, not 100. And that's how the contact happened. But would he have done any different if it was Max on the outside instead of Piastri? Of course he would have. He's a racing driver. He has to go for it. So to blame him to drive any differently because there's a teammate on the outside at lap one, I I don't know. You're trying to make a robot out of a racing driver, and that's why a normal situation seems like an unprecedented issue in this case.
I completely agree. And my thinking is it baffles me just to what level they would have tried to engineer papaya rules. Because if the papaya rules actually say no attacking your teammate on the opening lap of a race for position, because why else would Oscar Piastri be asking for papaya rules or being reminding the teams of papaya rules and how teammate worthy or not Lando Norris was?
This has actually gone a level beyond what David Coulthard and Mika Hakkinen agreed upon back in 1998. And they had a handshake agreement, which was criticized a lot at that time, where they said the first person who would lead after lap one would be able to keep the race win. And
Yeah.
I think Mika Hakkinen had some technical snag. He went to the pit lane. DC still handed him the win back because they had a gentleman's agreement. And that was Papaya Rules V1. This V2 is. Yeah, what do you make of it, Kunal? I- how do you explain this circumstance that has led to Oscar complaining at lap one?
You know, I think Oscar was in general complaining in the larger scheme of things, and Sadhna is saying Oscar has no right to be upset. Well, I think what happened is he realized that not only did Norris nudge him out and almost caused him to crash. Let's remember 25-point gap, and that's that DNF that anyone would be thinking of, right? But that's the risk that you go to when you go through racing. But I think he also realized he lost track position, which also meant that he realized he lost any opportunity to have a better pit strategy. And then he realized that's it. I'm going to be fourth unless somebody else crashes. And that's probably why he was so dissolute through the race. I remember when we were doing commentary on the Hindi official broadcast on Fan Code with Chetan Soumil, we kept discussing why is he so pissed? Why is he upset? Why is he not motivated enough? And I think that was probably his reason. He realized he had done a lot to qualify ahead of Lando. But then one bully move from Lando and suddenly he lost priority position in pit stops and just resigned to finishing fourth himself. And Lando said post race, had it not been for his inability to overtake Max Verstappen, he could have actually gotten to George Russell as well, which I think is ambitious because I think George was definitely the class of the
No,
field.
no chance. No chance. I think that's cap Lando. I'm so sorry. He's capping. Lando is capping, my friends. He's been caught. No, it's impossible, wasn't it? That first stint from George Russell was mega, Kunal. Like first 15 laps, I think he pulled out 9 seconds on 9.5 seconds on Max Verstappen.
Yeah,
A second a lap at one point, 1.2 faster than Kimi at one point. And I was like, what is this guy doing? How?
correct.
How is he that good? Which brings a question. Why does George Russell only win at odd circuits? Like, why can't he win at a Silverstone? Or why can't he win at an Italy? Why does he have to go win at Singapore and Canada and all these weird places where you have outliers in the Formula One Canada? Win more often, George. I think it's
And
down to
but
the car.
it's down to cars, down to track conditions, it's down to various things. And by outlier, what you mean is in terms of setup requirements and so on, right?
Yep, short corners, bumpy entry into the braking zones, lots of curves on the entry. That was apparently McLaren's issue. And that's why they weren't quite quick. And similar conditions in Canada, George Russell won.
Yes, George Russell won, and I must say there were just two teams that actually brought upgrades to Singapore. One was Red Bull; they got a new front wing to help them get better balance in the car, which is what they've been chasing, right? And the other one was actually Mercedes, where they brought a front wing to reduce the front downforce to again bring better balance with their rear downforce package. And I love that they are still chasing performance upgrades, Somal, because my other feeling is McLaren have definitely switched off on 2025 and put minds onto 2026 several months ago because they knew they had a package strong enough to get there. And Fibal ACC says the gap that George Russell had at the start was, of course, inflated due to Max's softs. But here's an insight: the reason why Max actually used the softs, Sommel, was because on the left side of the grid, if you're facing the
Mhm.
start light, so the offline drivers,
Yeah.
they already knew that they're going to have bad grip when they start, right? Because it had rained out and blah blah blah, the usual stuff. There's just low grip, and we saw at the start all the odd starters had much better getaways than the even starters, right? And Max said, I wouldn't have stood a chance with the medium. So we thought, why don't I just put on the soft and hope that I get a little better grip off the start? So what we all thought that, oh, he wanted to dive bomb George Russell and make an attack. Well, technically, he was just thinking of staying ahead of the McLarens so that he can build on this, outside chance of winning the Drivers' Championship this year.
Which is a very interesting piece of insight because that seems to be Max conceding that the only way to win a Formula One race against George Russell when he's this good, or in this particular circumstance, is hoping that he's able to get past the turn one. Because if you can't, then it's just a one stopper, and then you've got to hope for things to work out there. And it didn't. And on top of that, Max made an error. Now, again, we've seen lots of drivers make driver errors. Lewis Hamilton has done it this year. I remember Leclerc making one or two as well. Similar for Lando Norris. We saw Piastri making one. Nobody ever talks about Max Verstappen making a driver error. I don't as well. He's my favorite because he's just simply best and he's better than everyone else. But
What driver error? What did I miss?
he went off. He went off at one of the turns. He almost locked up and went into the barrier. Now, he's very quick to say the car is very tough to drive. But in one way, does that not count as a driver error?
No,
Just
I don't think it was a driver error. That definitely was down. He was facing gear shift issues, and that was what was making the car unpredictable. I wouldn't
hmm,
call that a driver error. And I actually thought he's going to hit the wall there, but luckily
same.
he caught it. But there's an interesting one. I think it's Shinde who says, "How are you all? Love the podcast. Well, thank you for the love. Noticed your
Thanks, man.
predictions were off. Dude, why do you think George Russell excelled in Singapore? Tell me if anyone had this trio in their predictions, Russell, Verstappen, Norris, in any order. Okay, please write into us. Let us know. We'd love to know.
Yeah, nobody had Russell. Nobody had Russell. You know, Mark Hughes' piece on the race was excellent on this. And he said, it's a combination of McLaren feeling numb on the soft compound tires and not able to fire them up compared to last year. and Mercedes just being so good at getting load into their front tires in circuits like this. Like I remember Canada being one circuit, Singapore today, even China. George Russell was able to outqualify so many faster cars because he's able to get more load into his front tires, and that in certain circumstances is just a difference maker. And then once you have clean air, he's just good as everyone else, I'd say, in the top six.
And that clean air is so good. Max actually backed off, found clean air, and said, "My car's come alive again." Oscar Piastri did that. Lewis Hamilton did that. So that clean air was such a differentiator, which tells me we should probably move on to talk about Lewis Hamilton, Ferrari. Ferrari actually had brake issues, Soumil, with both their cars. They had a brake disc imbalance problem, which they were nursing all along, which is why Leclerc was not driving to the pace of the car. In fact, he used to keep asking, "Can I push a little more? Can I push a little more?" And Brian Buzzy would come onto the radio saying, "No, you're fine the way you are right now." So they just couldn't unleash more pace. They swapped the cars. Hamilton took a free stop to try and get the softs to chase Antonelli. Okay, and then he just ran out of brakes himself. And you remember in Baku, he misjudged the swap back.
Yes.
This time, they swapped them back way before. So Leclerc finished ahead of Hamilton, and then of course Hamilton had that time penalty as well.
Yeah, it was weird. I think Ferrari were more in Formula Drift than Formula One this weekend. Looking at all the oversteer they had in the final corner, it was weird. They tried all sorts of things. They tried going to a higher downforce level in qualifying. They tried like different tactics to warm up their tires as well. They were complaining about sitting at the end of the pit lane for far too long, and they said that is also a reason why the tires were not in the right place, and hence they couldn't qualify in the right place. Everything that had to go wrong went wrong, and
And
it just
and
didn't
and
look like a
Lewis
comfortable.
Hamilton had a slow stop as well,
Oh
which is
yeah,
one place Ferrari has been spot on is in the pit lane, right? They had a slow stop as well. Another driver with a slow stop was Fernando Alonso, who was furious. And he said, "If you talk to me one more time, I'm going to disconnect all the radio." I loved the feisty Fernando Alonso. And Fernando Alonso was so pissed with Lewis Hamilton on the in lap after the race. He said he had a red flag violation. He got away with it. Today he's driving completely off track limits. How can he get away with this? This is absolute trash. He was pushing for Lewis Hamilton to get a penalty, just so that, of course, he goes up, finishes higher, and gets some more points in the Constructors Championship, because that Constructors Championship, Sommel, is closely contested. So much that Williams scoring that 1 point through Carlos Sainz were jubilant. They said, "Wow, we got an extra point in the Constructors Championship."
delightful performance by Carlos, by the way. Like what, 18th he was?
Yeah, and this is after they had a disqualification
Yeah, yeah.
for a DRS measurement in after qualifying, and I think in the end of it all, it was also down to teamwork, because Alex Albon started from the pit lane, and then when Sainz went really long, Liam Lawson also went very long with him on the medium tire. So what Alex Albon did is, the minute Liam Lawson pitted, he held Liam Lawson back. So he had a role to play in that team strategy as well. So much so that Liam Lawson actually came back after the race was done, and he said, "We were together, and I don't know why after the pits I was at the end of the queue, and Carlos was leading the queue." Well, I think Racing Bulls just got flummoxed with some bit of Williams' teamwork this weekend.
Chaka chond is the word we use in Hindi. Like, Bokla gaye is what they'd call it. If you know, you know.
You
It's
mean stunned for all our international audiences?
gobsmacked, jaw dropped, astounded, flummoxed. There's yeah, love the language, man. It's it's so much fun. We've got a question from Peyanshu. It's a different note altogether. It's more at the front of the field because not much happened at the back apart from Lance Stroll saying there is medium compound tires, which were like around 12 or 18 laps old, somewhere in the middle. Felt like 100 laps old. That was the only other highlight. The rest was fun. Oh no, Sonoda got pushed into the wall almost. Bortoletto clipped the back of someone. Midfield drivers were going crazy. Ocon, Bortoletto, Gasly. What on earth was happening there before we go to Fianchu's comment?
Well, racing around the streets of Singapore, because from P11 to P20 at one point of time, when Oscar Piastri got that message, there were, I think, 8 drivers separated by just 10 seconds. So they were really racing for positions. It's just so that we couldn't really see them score any of those points at that point of time, Somal. But I think several standout drivers in the midfield, especially Isaac Hadjar, who we spoke of earlier in the show as well.
It was insane. So much fun. All right,
What
last
what what
question
what,
though.
was the Singapore Grand Prix fun? Okay, and I'll tell you where I'm going with this. It's the second
Yeah,
consecutive Singapore Grand Prix, and this is for the stats segment, so we can actually use that. The second
yeah.
consecutive Singapore Grand Prix where we did not have a safety car. And do we need safety cars to make Singapore more fun? Well, maybe, I don't know. This was also the first time ever all 20 drivers were classified as finishers in the race, Somal. Now, this is, can you
No.
imagine?
Bring back the Singapore sling. Bring back the PK corner. We need it. We need it.
Yeah,
Like,
I would love the Singapore sling to come back for sure.
oh, no, I think it's a little unfair to call it the PK corner because he crashed before that corner. The, the Kobayashi Bruno Senna corner. Remember the one where
Yeah,
he used
yeah.
to take the left and Kobayashi slammed into the wall. Bruno Senna slammed inside him. It's funny. Last
There,
few
there are
comments before.
there are a couple of more stats I would add, right?
Oh, sure. Why not?
Yeah, so Norris now trails Priastri by 22 points. Finally, it's less than a Grand Prix win, right? And Norris has actually reduced the gap to Oscar Piastri for the third consecutive race. Okay, Charles Leclerc has gone 5 races without a podium finish, and Lewis Hamilton has not been on the podium in 18 starts for Ferrari. Now, that in itself is a record. And the biggest stat for me, Soumil, is Fernando Alonso moves ahead of teammate Lance Stroll in the Drivers' Championship. Fernando Alonso jumped 3 positions in the Drivers' Championship today.
Yeah, the worst driver is dropping points. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Yeah, on a day when the Stroll family was there.
They're not there most races, all races, some races. Anyway,
Depends. The whole family was there. Okay,
yeah.
I think Kunal has to go. I'm going to step in on his behalf and take the last couple of things rapid fire. Abhijit's comment: Hajar Alonso, highlight of the race. Yeah, it was good fun. And you could see how slow Isaac was getting on the major, losing power. Satna saying, so who's winning the best of the midfield? One word answer: I think Isaac Hajar. What about you, Kunal?
Isaac Hadjar, 11 Q3 appearances, more than any other driver on the grid. And I think that to me is definitely a standout performance for a driver in his debut season.
It's
And he's
amazing.
ninth in the
Fianchu,
Drivers' Championship, isn't it? Yeah, he is ninth
I
in the
think he
Drivers'
is, right?
Championship. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
best of the rest, yeah. Yeah, clearly. Fianchu, is Las Vegas now the only track where George Russell could fight again for the win? I mean, if you ask this question to Mercedes themselves, Kunal, I don't think they'll have an answer because I don't think they can tell where they will come alive.
Yeah, and that's what George has been saying. We're going to dig through the data tomorrow to find out why were we actually quick on what's otherwise a bogey track. He said, if there was any circuit I thought I would win at, Singapore would be last on the list.
And interestingly, he learned from Kimi Antonelli's data to go faster in qualifying. So Russell learned from Kimi to win the Singapore Grand Prix. He's not a bad rookie after all. And last one, Feyanshu saying we have to give Zach Brown his flowers. From 2018 to here, IndyCar and endurance as well, and also resurrecting the McLaren brand in total. Yeah, I mean, that's a good note to end on, isn't it? Zach
Yeah.
Brown.
I'll tell you a very warm note to end on. Oliver Behrman scored points for the second time in 14 races. Okay, he finished ninth after a career best qualifying position as well. And he dedicated his P9 finish to somebody called Linus. Okay, as soon as he went off the checkered flag, he said, I want to say a big thank you to Linus. He told the team to record it. He said he was our driver this Singapore Grand Prix, and without him, I wouldn't have been P9 today. So good job, Linus. My guess is this was a chauffeur who was driving Oliver around in Singapore, right? Unless he was staying at one of those, one of the hotels in the circuit itself. But did Linus, a local driver, give Oliver Bevan some tips on how to handle the heat, humidity, bumps, and the challenge of the Singapore Grand Prix? Who knows? I'd love to ask him this question.
I wanted Linus as my driver coach. Good job, Linus. Oh, fun, fun, fun. All right. 30 minutes. Good time to end. Thank you for joining, guys. It's been such a pleasure. Sadhna, Fayanshu, Abhijit, all of you lot. I mean, we've had a lot more people early as well. Sammy as well joining in earlier. So, guys, thank you. Thank you for sending in your comments. Thank you for interacting with us. We will be back. When will we be back? Magazine show? Yeah,
Yeah.
magazine show comes out in a few days' time. So keep an eye out on that. Shots will, of course, keep on coming towards you on our social media channels. Follow the Inside Line F1 podcast on YouTube and Instagram. Follow Kunal, follow myself. F1 Stats Gurus here as well. Uttara and the team are doing a great job setting everything up. So give them their flowers too in the comments. And we'll be back, guys. We'll be back. Enjoy the evening and relish McLaren winning the constructors. If you can't, at least enjoy Russell win. Bye bye.